March Madness ratings are up with no Cinderella and very little drama. Caleb, will this continue? Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. What say you, sir?
Yes. Yes, I think this is going to continue. And just for people who are wondering, the NCAA tournament averaged 9.4 million viewers in the second round. That's up 3% from last year. Sunday alone, they had 10 million viewers when Duke and Baylor played, Kentucky and Illinois played, and Florida and UConn played. I have said, and I've had a thesis for a long time, that people say they like upsets. People lie. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. Lil Wayne and Yo Gotti said that.
Okay. Now, I think people like upsets, but here's the thing that speaks to your point in maybe a different way than you thought of. Who has bigger fan bases? Is it Duke, Florida, Kansas, Kentucky, Texas, for that matter, or is it Murray State?
Yeah, it's the ones you named.
Right. So you're just seeing more viewers because the bigger schools are involved. I would argue
the fan bases of those teams is what you're saying.
Right. I would argue that the quality of the NCAA tournament was down this year because of the lack of upsets. I can't argue with those numbers, and it's not going to change because I believe the transfer portal is robbing the mid-majors of players that could take them deep into the NCAA tournament. So, Caleb, I'm not going to argue that the numbers are correct, and I'm not going to argue that it's going to continue to do so. But I'll tell you this, for the common guy like me, that yes, I cover Tennessee, but I just like watching the competition. I've said before, here's what I like about sports. I like when somebody goes home really, really sad, somebody goes home really, really happy. That happens in the NCAA tournament. Does it happen moving forward, or is it just about rooting for your favorite team? I'm going to agree with Caleb for a different reason. I'll say bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. The ratings will continue to increase, even though I don't think the common fan is as excited about the tournament, which is going to be 318 teams before long.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life.
Okay, so Caleb, let me just ask you this. Was this year's NCAA tournament first weekend boring?
No, I enjoyed it. I actually am. I do this crazy thing where
it was the second most boring tournament of the first weekend. Still good. It's still good. It's like the ugliest supermodel.
I do this crazy thing where I enjoy good basketball, and I'm not a person who enjoys upsets the way everybody else does in March Madness, because I think the problem with upsets is they're not legitimate. They're gimmicky. They are almost okay. I'm sorry, guys. When you watch, half the upsets you watch in March Madness are as real as when Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant.
I don't understand why you think that.
Because it's a rigged game that is designed to increase randomness so lesser teams can win.
Everybody knows that going in. It's completely orchestrated in professional wrestling. There's no comparison there.
It's borderline orchestrated in March Madness.
No,
it is. I mean, it's borderline orchestrated in March Madness. And so they decided to stop doing that. Now, this was actually, I've told you guys, this was more of an anomaly. I don't think there's going to be no upsets year to year. I think you will see upsets. They're just going to be less because the quality of play has increased now. So to pull off an upset, you actually have to play better than the other team, not get lucky from a tightly officiated game or milking a 35-second shot clock or getting red hot from a shortened three-point line that is way too short. Okay? So I think one of the best things about this is that you're not going to see this every year, all Power 4 teams in the Sweet 16, but you will see fewer upsets. I think you're right. The big name teams have more people watching. Also, Dave, you know what people like to see? Future NBA lottery picks going head to head against each other. They don't want to see this. They don't want to see this little school with 5 guys and it's their one shining moment. And then next year they're going to go work as general contractors somewhere. Not that there's anything wrong with working as a general contractor, but they're not going to the NBA. No, you want to see the NBA talent go against, you want to see the best talent face each other at some point. in the tournament. That's what you want. And so the game is getting better because they're actually catering it to that idea. Then there's the other factor on this. We haven't even talked about this because I can say this for me personally. I think ratings are just naturally going up regardless of who's in because sports betting. March Madness is the second most bet on thing of the year. Yeah.
I almost think you can put out a lesser product. I'm not saying let it fall off the map, but if you're a sport and you put out an A+ product, which I would say the NCAA tournament has, and it drops down to a B+, which I think it's on the verge of doing. I think with sports gambling and the purveyance of it and the fact that the largely, and I know this is not you, but they're preying on our youth.
But they are.
That will keep it afloat, and more than just afloat, it'll excel.
Look, I'm totally with you, and I'm going to say this up front as someone who likes to sports gamble. It's insane that these companies aren't regulated at all. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be allowed to sports gamble. It is, but we went from like banning it to like letting them do whatever the hell they want without any like pushback whatsoever. It's like, can't we find a middle ground of legalizing but regulate it to a certain degree so they don't target 16-year-olds? Like if a liquor store went and knocked on a 16-year-old's door and said, here's alcohol, like they would get in trouble. But they can target you on your phone and say, hey, why don't you start gambling? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's insane.
No, I mean, my kids have more friends that have problems with gambling than drugs or alcohol. Dylan says, I think NIL level, and they're the early 20s. I think NIL leveled the playing field so it feels like the real best team in college basketball will win it all. No more upsets and Cinderellas, but that's the price you paid. It's not just the NIL, it is, but it's also the transfer portal. If you look at the top prospects that were transfers and where they all went to either a team that had a legendary coach, a la Rick Pitino, or a basketball power, or a program that had a lot of money. And that's the way it's going to be forever. I think the McNeese states of the world are going to get ruled out of this thing pretty shortly. And that's unfortunate.
I think they'll still be. I still agree with you. I think they'll still be in there. I just think they will be less. They'll be less common. And I think it's good that they're less common because honestly, Dave, it was getting so common that you were forgetting who the upsets are. You forget like if I tell you remember the mid-major Cinderella to get to the Final Four? There've been so many you can't name one off the top of your head. Or to make a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 run. Now, when they do it, they're going to get more remembered because they're not just a dime a dozen. I mean, what we forget with March Madness and the NCAA tournament is Dave upsets Cinderellas were a dime a dozen. Okay. And so it's not special when it's a dime a dozen.
No, I think there was a time when the 3-point line was closer that you had a better argument. But that's been several years ago. David said stat of the day, Caleb, 16 of the top 50.
The 50 top players were mid-major players.
All right. What are we basing that off of?
I think I could believe that. I don't know what it's based off of, but I'm not saying I wouldn't believe that, whatever that's in reference to, because a lot of players are mid-majors. There's a stat that's out there now. The majority of Sweet 16 teams, at least 4 of their starting 5 came from another school.
Well, tell you what you're going to have really soon is you're going to have fewer Cinderellas. So maybe there'll be a bigger story when they actually break through and make it to the Elite 8 or the Final. Perhaps we can throw that out there if you want to, but I look back at some of the most talented players, Dwayne Wade, Marquette, and you've had Marquette and Gonzaga and all of these mid-majors, and I just did the air quotes if you're on our audio platforms. They did all of this stuff, Caleb, and they're not mid-majors anymore. You're spending as much on basketball as anybody else, but the differentiating factor moving forward is, can you spend as much NIL money? And they can't. The bottom line is, if Tennessee wants to get Dalton Knecht from Northern Colorado, they can. Could Dalton Knecht's absence from Northern Colorado have cost them an NCAA tournament run? Absolutely. He was the second best player walking the face of earth in college basketball last year.
Okay, but let's talk about somebody like Chaz Lanier, who never even played in an NCAA tournament. North Florida never got close when he was there, and now he's at Tennessee and he's playing. Does North Florida ever get a shot? I mean, does him being there really give North Florida a realistic shot at the NCAA tournament? Because I don't think it does. I
think they definitely make it, don't you?
No, they didn't make it all 4 years Chaz Lanier was there.
Well, but he was all of the guys that Rick Barnes is getting, they're all late bloomers because he likes guys that they improve over time.
Yes, but this one, in this case, Chaz Lanier had already bloomed because he bloomed last year. Now, Dave, I mean, look, you're still going to see these stars. Here's where it's going to come, though. They'll have a growth spurt, and they'll be a star like their sophomore year. Like, for instance, let's bring up Murray State again. John Morant was never going to make his way to a big name program. John Morant was a breakout star as a sophomore at Murray State. Had he stayed in college, he would have made his way to a big name program. But he just went straight to the NBA. And he didn't go to the NBA before he took Murray State to the second round of the NCAA tournament and was a breakout star by upsetting Marquette. So I think, and same with Steph Curry. I think, wasn't he a sophomore when he took Davidson to the Sweet 16?
Yes.
And yeah, he wasn't going to go to he wasn't in line to transfer to a bigger program. That made him in line for a draft pick.
Going back to your point, North Florida was 15-17. Are you telling me with Chaz Lanier, one of the better players and one of the best conferences in the nation, are you telling me they don't get to 20 games and make the NCAA tournament?
I'm saying they make it to 20 games. I'm saying they don't make the NCAA tournament. 20 games doesn't do that for you at that level.
I'm at 20 plus.
I don't, Dave, you covered a Tennessee basketball team that had Allen Houston and another NBA player on there and Steve Hamer at center. And they couldn't
Lord, how old do you think I am?
And I'm not covered. I'm sorry. You followed those teams.
I was going to school at the time.
You followed a team that had two NBA players in its starting lineup, including a future NBA like borderline Hall of Famer. This is going
to sound crazy to you, Caleb, but Tennessee basketball was so dead at that time. I lived on campus, and there were times you didn't know if there was a game that night or not.
Right, with Allen Houston.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And Allen Houston couldn't get them past the second round of the NIT.
Okay.
Maybe Wade Houston was a transcendently bad head coach at the same time.
He knew his stories, though. He did like soap operas. Nothing like taking a little. What's cooler, by the way? Let's make this a poll question. Is it Wade Houston's soap operas, or did you see the quote from one of Tennessee's assistant basketball coach? Talked about Rick Barnes apparently has a Golden Tee machine in, and like 10 minutes before a big game, he's fine with just chilling with his Golden Tee machine. That didn't sound right, did it? Is that possible? Did you see that? I sent it to you.
You did send it to me. That's like an arcade thing, and Rick Barnes seems like he's too old for even the arcades. So, like,
he doesn't understand tokens.
Yeah, he doesn't.